Love that you fuck with me now, cause you know I keep you around, yeah, you know that I mean it.
Check. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to the Jordan Powers Experience. My name is Jordan Powers, and on today's episode, I am joined by officially probably the strongest cousin in my family, Rhys Hawthorne. Rhys Hawthorne is a bodybuilder who went into his first competition this past summer. And in his first competition, I believe he was the youngest man on stage to get into like kind of the finals, and he ended up coming second in the True Novice Classic Physique and third in the Junior Men's Physique. Rhys has been working extremely hard to achieve his goals in bodybuilding, and anybody that is involved in health and fitness, and more specifically bodybuilding as a sport and an art form, knows just how much sacrifice and dedication it takes to get there. So in our conversation, we talked about his bodybuilding experience, some of the kind of things that gave him an advantage when competing, and also some of his training techniques, his eating, his nutrition, all of that. Rhys is also an accountant, fresh out of school, and is headed off to Switzerland to expand his learning and in that era. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this episode. A quick readout from the sponsors first. This episode is brought to you by Okanagan Cannabis. Okanagan Cannabis has been producing craft cannabis in BC for the past 2 years. They are a local company who use organic and environmentally friendly practices to create oil extracts and high THC bud. You can now go to your local BC cannabis store and find their two products, Oakum and Smoke'em, and check them out. And you can also go to www.oakumcannabis.com and check them out and learn more. Our second sponsor is Garnish Barware. Garnish Barware is trusted behind some of Canada's busiest cocktail bars, and they create custom engraved cocktail kits. So you can go to www.garnishbarware.com, get your custom engraved cocktail kit that is done all here locally in Kelowna, BC by my man Griffin, and yeah, make sure you check them out as well. So yep, without holding you back anymore, here's my conversation with Rhys Hawthorne. Late night show host kind of type shit.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Not yet. I need to hire people.
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Rhys Hawthorne.
Yes, that's me.
What is going on, my man?
Not much. Thank you for bringing me on this podcast.
Dude, I'm stoked to have you on. You're the second family member in a row to be on.
I feel pretty fortunate that I am a family member to make it on. So. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Yeah, man. How you been? I meant to ask you off camera, but are you guys like being affected by these fires and stuff in town at all?
Yeah. No, I mean, well, we were in Kelowna here last night as well, but the smoke that you guys got here is just like a portion of what we're getting there.
Yeah.
And like we're getting like major ashfall and everything too. And then our family has a cabin out on the West Side Road. The fire's like less than 500 meters from it, so
jeez,
we're just
today even, eh?
Oh yeah, so like the gas station just down the road, like 1.5 kilometers, that burnt down last night. So yeah, it's pretty close, and we're just keeping our fingers crossed that she stays up, because that's been the family for a while. So yeah, my
buddy has a cabin on West Side Road as well, and way down there, and yeah, they're all obviously not allowed to go there now and stuff, which kind of sucks, but hopefully everything just stays up.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I guess we'll see. There's a little rain today as we're speaking, so hopefully,
knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood. Hopefully that puts some of the fires out, or at least slows it down a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's a kind of a shitty way to start the podcast. But tell the people a little bit about yourself, man, and how we got to this point.
So I'm Rhys. I'm 20 years old. I'm from Vernon, and kind of why Jordan brought me on this podcast was I like to bodybuild, which is definitely a unique sport.
Yeah, dude, I'm kind of pissed at you, bro.
Yeah, well,
you were supposed to be the smaller cousin, the little cousin.
Well, I mean, man strength, you can still probably beat me. But
I don't know, dude. I don't know.
If we arm wrestled, I'm weak that way, but I can look good on stage. Like,
you can put up a ton of fucking weight also.
Well, there's some weight getting put up. That's pretty big. So Yeah, but no, so I started bodybuilding. This was my first show this year. I was supposed to do a show last year, but it got canceled because of COVID. Just gave me some extra time to just get that much more prepared. Had one more bulk throughout this winter, and then, dieted down for what I thought was going to be 16 weeks, and then got postponed. Gave me 19 weeks, which was just a blessing in disguise because just that much more time to get right in shape and, figure out the diet and everything. So then, once I did that 19 weeks, stepped on stage and experienced that I can't compare anything to. I've played all the recreational sports as a kid, and there's just nothing that compares to it, because one of the biggest things is like my coach, for example, when you're playing soccer or hockey, your coach can yell at you, but they can't correct you. Right. And you're on stage and you can just look at your coach the whole time. And, if you're not flexing your legs, because you don't want to be looking down at your body, right? You want to be constantly flexing, looking straight forward. So you just find your coach in the crowd and he can see what's flexing on. My coach was loud, so just was hollering at me.
He's just screaming, eh?
Oh, yeah. And it's really funny because especially when there's like two guys on stage, it's like the audience, it's like back in high school when they had the, back and forth, the sides of the bleachers, who was louder. Like, that's what it is when two guys are battling it out. It's crazy. Like, just the whole environment at those shows is just, like, everyone's there for the same reason. And, everyone is ornery as hell because we're all depleted and, been dieting for 19 weeks. But at the end of it, we're all in such a good mood. It's always a good experience. And, literally nothing that I can compare to it. Like, no sport I've ever done.
That's wild.
Yeah. And the thing is like, I keep referring to it as a sport, but there's so much more to it than just the competitive aspect, right? Like, it's not only a lifestyle, but it's also an art, because you're literally kind of crafting and shaping yourself as a human, essentially. And for my coach, I'm like his painting, and the show is just a way for him to display his artwork. It's just the art gallery, right? That's his work. He was the one that told me what to do. I'm the one doing the work, but without his guidance and like kind of pointing me in the right direction, I'm not getting to where I am.
Totally.
So,
martial artists would say the same thing also. Like, their coach kind of crafts them into their style and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely, and then like the last component that's like makes it completely separate from anything else is it's the only thing you actually have to fully deplete for, right? You see these marathon and like sprinters, whatever, CrossFitters, they're in shape. Like, they could run a lot further than I could, but at the end of the day, on show day or on their competition day, they're making sure their body's fueled up, ready to go, right? Where bodybuilding, like those last four weeks, I'd say, it's like game over. Like, you're in a completely different mood. Like, your body's not operating properly. Like, that, in my opinion, is the only unhealthy part about it, because you are going into like such a deprivation, or whatever that word is. But so that's what makes it really unique. And just
the mental kind of struggle and capacity to push your body through that when it doesn't want to be pushed through that must be just as difficult as all the physical lifting, if not more difficult.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously also, as as your body has less nutrients, the physical lifting gets even more harder, and the gym is no longer somewhere where you enjoy. I look at my 24 hours in a day as 22 of it is chores, what I do at home. I eat, I sleep. That's all the things that suck, so to say. The 2 hours at the gym, that's like me getting to go to the playground as a kid. Like, that's the 2 hours of fun I have.
Totally.
But on prep, completely different. Like, you cherish every moment you have in your bed because you love your sleep. You hate going to the gym. It feels like a chore to go there.
Yeah.
And like, that's the one thing I didn't want to happen, but it did. But with a goal in mind, it just like,
you just push through it.
You push through it. And there's definitely some people that I think that they let that get the better of them.
Totally.
Or they'll be like, oh, well, I'll go to the gym and then I'll go get a McFlurry or something, one good, one bad, and it balances out. But like, at the end of the day, if you don't cheat, you're going to the gym every day, you're following your plan, you're going to be in good shape.
Good things are going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. So,
do you do anything to almost like mental exercise to like sharpen the mindset so that you can push through those moments? I know a lot of people refer to like ice baths and stuff as like there's a lot of benefits for recovery, apparently, but a lot of people talk about how it's like that mental sharpening of the sword because you're just pushing yourself through something your body doesn't want to go through.
Yeah, no, honestly, like for me, I was in school full time, or not full time, sorry, I was working full time, taking some classes at nighttime.
Damn.
And working in Kelowna, so driving an hour each way each day. And, there was just not enough time in the day for me to get everything done. And a lot of times, I'd get stressed out over not having enough time to get that last meal in or whatever.
Right.
So literally I would start waking up in the morning and literally looking myself in the mirror, as weird as it sounds, because that was the one thing that would like start my day out on the right track. Like you can do this.
Nice.
And then you're just 1 foot ahead of where you were yesterday, and then you just go from there. And like just telling yourself that there is enough time.
Yeah.
Don't get stressed out, because it's just like the little things that you can't control are what just get you so wound up when your body is in a deprived state. Like it's just completely uncontrollable. Honestly.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, your hormones are probably all out of whack.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a mess. We don't want to talk about that on camera. But yeah, that's a whole other story. So
Wild, man. Yeah. And so what got you into this whole journey into bodybuilding? Because I remember growing up, you were really into wakeboarding.
Yeah. So in 2016, I broke my back wakeboarding, and that was kind of like the big turning point.
And what do you mean by broke your back? Because that sounds really intense.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a lot worse than it was. Just basically the way that my L4 comes down on my L5 just creates a little bit too much friction, created like a fulcrum effect, and it was a cracked disc that finally ruptured in like a really odd way. So anyways, they put me in like a hard shell plastic brace for 6 months. That was living hell.
I believe it. Yeah.
And then, but like it felt good after, and it was still broken. So then that was kind of like when I was like, hey, like I probably should be slowing down with these like really high impact sports, especially, playing volleyball, soccer. Those are all sports where you're hyperextending your back. And that was what really aggravated it. So yeah, I wakeboarded one more year competitively. That year I qualified for Worlds, so I went to Worlds. And then after that, I kind of just, so to say, retired. I still do it for fun. I've wakeboarded, I think, twice this summer. Like, it's just not on the first thing on my priority list anymore.
Right.
Where before I was getting up at 5 a.m., beat all the Albertans out on the lake, because otherwise they're getting their surf boats out at 7 a.m., right? So, yeah, just priorities change. And then one of the biggest things when I was in my hard shell plastic brace was keeping my core strong, because you have this thing supporting you and basically keeping you upright. So that's when I really started going to the gym more frequently. That was kind of end of grade 10. And then me and my buddy, we just got into it. And, every day that was where we went. We'd go train at the gym and then go to work together. And it was the routine. And then, my stepdad, Dana, who actually painted this sign.
Yeah, shout out Sharks Customs for hooking us up with the sign.
Yeah.
That's so dope, man.
Yeah, he does.
He crushed it.
Does some good artwork. But so he did some bodybuilding shows back in the day, kind of right when he came into my life, and I thought it was pretty cool, like seeing what the body can do, and it was nice having him kind of as I grew up to tell me and point me in the right direction, and I think that definitely got me more involved and ahead of a lot of other people my age. My training was a bit more proper when I was younger. I was eating a bit more proper when I was younger. So all these little things kind of added up, where most people don't really get really into the gym, maybe grade 12, and diet is a whole other thing. Most people, if they do, it's not till a bit later in their life when they're like really starting to see the changes, and they're like, I should probably like do something about it, right?
Totally.
So,
well, I can imagine 18, 19, bodybuilding and stuff. A lot of these dudes are probably going to the bars and drinking and partying at university. And
yeah, no. So it was pretty good when I lived in Victoria. It was me and my close buddy, and we both were just such similar mindsets. There was parties that we would literally show up, no drinks, but we'd have a Tupperware of food or a protein shake, and it's just what we did. Like
I've always admired guys that could do that, because I don't have that self-control, man.
No,
I'm
we
like
weren't big drinkers, so we would just go, and no matter where we were, it was just about getting food in you. You got to just one more meal. There was not a time that we weren't eating, when we were sitting down, you know, we're in class, there's no computers or notebooks out. There's a spoon and a Tupperware and 2 guys sitting side by side just eating food, and people hated us for it. But hey, at the end of the day, you gotta eat, right?
There's only
so much time in the day. We'd wake up at there's some days, we'd wake up at 1 or 2 in the morning, just get another protein shake in.
Really?
Just, you know, one more meal, why not?
So are you like filling yourself to the capacity of what your body can eat also? Or
This is the part I don't like, is the off season, because when you get to a point like right now, after my show, I'm kind of slowly progressing my diet backwards, right? You don't want to just jump right back up to mass amount of food. So I'm slowly going backwards out of my diet, just maybe 2 times the speed. And I'm slowly putting on weight. But there's going to hit a point when I start to plateau. And then that is when you need to go that 1 extra mile. It's, if you don't have a proper metabolism to like support it and be able to digest the food, you're constantly eating. So it's just like you're always full.
Right.
And it is force feeding. And like, it doesn't sound good when you say that I have to force feed myself.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's part of the sport, right? And
exactly. It's what you got to do, because like I said, there's only so many hours in a day, and you can eat pizza and stuff, but then your fats are going to be astronomically high for the amount of carbs you're getting. Like, yeah, sure, I could go crush multiple pizzas throughout a day, but those aren't the foods that you want in your diet to get you the best results. If you can have 5,000 calories of whole foods, that's going to be a lot better than 5,000 calories of empty calories.
Totally.
Food. So, I mean, there's that component to it, but at the end of the day, it's a lot of food.
Yeah. Because I can't eat much, man. Like I try, but I hate the feeling of being full. My dad can put it back, bro.
He can put it back.
He's got a metabolism.
He posed the fight with me. When I come back from Switzerland, I will be eating just as much as him, and we'll have to go have a little burger off or something.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious. Yeah, and we'll have to talk about Switzerland a little bit later also, but yeah, so at what point did the hobby of kind of going to the gym and that routine of constantly going and working out turn into like, I'm going to join a competition, like I'm going to perform on stage?
Yeah, so believe it or not, I actually danced when I was younger for 6 years.
I think I remember that.
Yeah. So I kind of have that, a bit of a rhythmic background and, you know, creative background to me. And yeah, I can move to a beat, so to say. And
I wish I could dance, bro. I cannot dance.
I can't dance anymore. You don't want to see me break a move down. But bodybuilding, depending what class you do, there's a dance, so to say, component of it, except you're just showcasing yourself. So rather than doing, you know, your break dance moves, your moves are each pose and how you link them together.
Right.
And I really like posing. Even when I was skinny, I'd always pose in the mirror just because I like posing to music. I'd just throw on a song, and that was just like stuff that me and my roommate, we'd just do. We'd like throw on a song and we just start posing to it, and we just thought it was cool. And then that's kind of when I always wanted to do a bodybuilding contest, but I always thought I'd do men's physique, which is where they wear the board shorts, you know, it's the classic beach body look, which is where I'd say 90% of people start. That's where like everyone kind of goes into, because your legs don't matter, and most people don't have great legs.
Bro, your legs are insane. That
was my strength. So that is why I did not want to cover them up. But
I was blown away when I saw those photos. I was like, yo, what the fuck? Like you look like you have muscles that don't exist on other people.
Yeah, and well, you know, a lot of that is conditioning, and one of the reasons why it's so unique is because like if I ate one more cup of Cheerios the morning of the show, I could have looked completely different.
Wow.
Like it's a science experiment that you're mixing 2 chemicals and you don't know what the labels are. They might blow up, they might not. And there was one guy beside me, I could you not, he was probably 2 times my size, like massive. And I annihilated him because he just didn't have that nice, lean, hard look to it, right? And like, so at these amateur shows, it's not who's the biggest, you know, you have to bring in that conditioning. And that was one thing that I got complimented on by multiple people, was that I came in conditioned, and that's rare for your first show. So, you know, hats off to my coach. He was the one that brought me in conditioned, telling me what to do. And we kind of stuck to that basic cookie cutter plan. You know, we weren't going unorthodox eating. I had a buddy, he was literally eating cheesecake and Big Macs the night before the show. And then Denny's for breakfast, and looked phenomenal on stage. Like,
Wild.
It's just that last cheat meal, carb you up, some fats, some sodium, and look great. For me, we didn't want to, 19 weeks to blow over in one meal. It's not worth it. We just kept to a basic plan, came in perfect. And for 20 years old, the muscle maturity is something that you get as you age, and you get that more feathered look. And that was the one thing that the judges said. They said, you're not the same size as all the other guys, but for how young you are, you have like insane muscle maturity. Like, that is very rare at your age. And basically I'm 20 pounds under the allowed weight cap for my category. So take these next couple of years, put on some extra weight. I'm still very young for the sport. Most people are, in their prime are 27 to 30, I'd say.
Wow.
So I'm very young for it. And if I take a couple years just to put on some extra weight, and then when I cut down again, hopefully I'll be at that upper end of the weight cap, and I'll be looking the same size as all the other guys and in the same better condition than them that I was in.
You said muscle maturity?
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Like, why does somebody have more? Is it just like a more defined muscle?
Yeah.
Almost,
So
or?
if you think about it, the more you're working out the muscle, the more dense and just more overworked it's going to get. It's going to stretch more. There's going to be more like little small fibers that develop within the muscle, and basically gives it more of a grainy, just feathered look is what they refer to it as. And that's just something that you get over time.
Right.
And you have to come in like peeled to the bone to like make sure that you're showing that muscle, because literally it's the skin going in between, right?
It. Whoa.
Like creating that very subtle washboard kind of effect, right? And so it's definitely one of those things that you see in a lot of, and like I said, why people are a bit older when they're in their prime is because that's when you have that mature muscle. There's guys at that Olympia level that are 24, 25 years old, just as big, but they just don't have that same nice, hard, crisp muscle that these older guys have, and they'll keep, right? So
when you explain it like that, it makes the whole artistic side of it make a lot more sense.
Yeah, exactly, right? So like everything, if you think about it, your gym plan is structured to like what you need to work on. Like for me, my arms are one of my weaknesses. So I have multiple arm days in a week, but my legs, I can get away with just going and doing one like solid 3-hour session a week with them. And they're good for the week. So it's just like, that's kind of the structuring to make sure that you shape and craft your body to know what you need to build up and get better for next time on stage. So there's definitely a big art aspect to it. Yeah.
And so how did that first show go? Because you said that it was a wild experience, and you ended up doing really, really well for your first time.
Yeah, I did. So I came second in the True Novice, which just basically means you haven't competed before. But I was blown away that there was 22 or 23 guys in my True Novice division, and there's no height requirement for the True Novice. It's just the only requirement is it's your first show. So I came second in that, and I was just blown away when I got called out in the first round of call-outs. I was like, holy, like there's 22 guys and now there's only 5 of us. I'm like, we're doing good, because you don't know what the other guys look like beside you. You're not looking left and right. So like,
it's not like you see them every day in training.
No,
or
exactly.
Because are they coming from all around the BC or?
No, there were some people that came from Ontario to this.
Wow,
this
so
was the first show that they did since COVID happened for like the Canadian Physique Alliance Association.
Okay.
So that was the first one that they put on since COVID, and yeah, we had a crazy turnout. There was like 180 people, but I think 130 of them were women or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, there was a lot of competitors though, and that was they did it all in one day. So it was on and off like very, very quickly. And I think part of it is they were just trying to get people through with COVID too. They don't want a whole bunch of people in the building.
Right, of course.
Yeah, it was definitely a bit unique of a show in that regard. But yeah, so I came second in the True Novice, and after that I was like, okay, like this is why I came here. I did what I need to get done, but what really matters is the open class. And so that was against only guys within plus or minus of an inch of my height. So we're all in the same height grouping. And there's still 18 or so guys in that grouping. So same thing, these guys, some of them have competed 6, 7, however many times they want, right? There's no now one-time requirement. And that I came 4th in. And for me, that was a much bigger deal to place 4th in an open class with a lot of guys that have been doing it for quite some time, right?
Of course,
so
yeah.
Showing that I can pose a fight to these guys that have been doing it and are 28, 29 years old, and I beat, 12 other competitors off the stage. Like, that was what really hit home for me, was placing 4th rather than placing 2nd, just because how much harder it was to place 4th.
Totally.
So, yeah, numbers don't always matter, but
but they mean something.
They mean something.
They mean something.
Yeah, and then I did men's physique as well, just because 19 weeks to come in shape. Why not? You're there. And that I came 3rd in the junior division, which is 23 and under.
Crazy.
But definitely not my forte. Like I said, the judges even said it's a shame that he had to cover up his legs, because that's just one thing on me, especially from the front, that just hits home, and it makes up for my lack of arms. And then from the back, I have my back to make up for my lack of arms. And yeah, it was.
You got the big muscles though. The big muscle groups are that's key,
which can sometimes be the hardest ones, right?
Yeah.
Because people either don't train them enough, or there's so many muscles within it that they're not training all of them.
Oh, I see.
Right.
I see.
So, and funny enough, my lower back happens to be my strongest, and it's one thing that the judges said, no one will ever touch you with. And I truthfully think that's because I broke it. So I was overtraining it. I was constantly, and it's not something people deadlift, but only the top quarter of your deadlift is actually for your lower back. Everything else is just coming from your legs.
Right.
Right. So, I had very particular exercises just to target my lower back. I was doing these every single day. So doing that for 6 months and then continuing to work that into my regular gym split, I think it just
gave you that extra edge.
Gave me that extra edge, because that's one thing that is very hard to develop, and I'm fortunate enough, I guess, to have broke my back to develop it.
Yeah. Well, and do you think your legs were because of wakeboarding also at all? Because that's very you're taking a lot of impact and you're stabilizing, and it's probably hitting a lot of weird tiny muscles that most people don't hit.
Yeah, do you know what? I there might be some merit to that. I went out wakeboarding 2 nights ago after I did legs, and my calves were just cramping. It's one of those things where you're holding a position, or you're doing something that you haven't done for a long time, and you just start to cramp up. So I don't know. At the end of the day, I think that there's definitely, you're definitely working some of those muscle groups, but I mean, it just comes with time, and anyone can develop legs just from playing sports. Like soccer, I could say develop my legs too.
Yeah.
Or
not me for some reason, bro. I got 0 calves.
I don't know if it's genetics or
it's definitely got to be genetics on my side.
Yeah. Those genetics you didn't want. You wanted this side's genetics.
Yeah, I should have gotten to the Hawthorne side of things.
But yeah, I mean, basketball and volleyball, all those sports definitely probably had an impact and helped get me to where they were. But at the end of the day, it's the time in the gym that matters. And when I do legs, I make sure I park by the front door, because I'm not walking halfway across the parking lot after. Once a week is all you need if you hit them right. And, people that say, oh, I'm going to go train something else, or I'm going to go do 10 minutes of cardio. No, you didn't hit legs. You just came to get a little light workout in.
Yeah, you got a little sweat on.
That's not a leg workout. If you're not puking, then...
Oh, jeez. Okay, well, I want to talk about some of the workouts and your routines and stuff that you go through, but we're just going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
And I bounce. Roll off, you rolling it out.
First time I haven't had facial hair and had buzzed head also.
Right. Yeah, because you got that done like what, a couple months
A
ago.
month or two ago, yeah. I feel like I look more like amphibian right now.
Yeah,
Or
you're kind of giving me that Mr. Clean vibe with the white shirt. Just give it a little shorter and
like promotion, Mr. Clean going.
Magic white eraser cleans anything.
Oh God, I hope not. I'm gonna have to grow this beard out again.
Yeah.
Hopefully, no cute girls are watching this episode.
Yeah. Hopefully none are coming from my page, you know, just diving right in.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully they're at least 17.
Yeah, that's what's gonna happen on my end. They're gonna be like, "Who's your cousin? Like, can I get his number?" I'm gonna be like, "No."
No. Is what it is.
It is what it is, and we're back, man. So, what does a and if you don't want to give away like any secrets and shit like that, like do not. So don't worry about that. But what, in general, kind of perspective, what does like a average week look like for you, or even start maybe with a day? But I know a week you're gonna hit different workouts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll walk through a day and kind of also a week. Basically every day, you know, I'm waking up early, cold shower first thing when I get up, just wakes me up, gets me out of bed. It's something I started doing on prep, and I don't know, I like it. It makes you feel awake to start the day, and then usually ate my first meal around 8. And one thing for a bodybuilder is your life revolves around meals, and it sucks, but you're eating breakfast. Most people like think about what they're eating for breakfast. I think about my lunch when I'm eating my breakfast. I think about my next meal, always thinking about what's next. And eat my breakfast, and then usually I head off to work around 7:30, work, eat a couple meals throughout the day through there, and then I'm on the road back home to Vernon, training for 2-3 hours, and then home, prep the meals for the next day, eat a couple more times, and into bed. Like, you don't have much time. And then when I was in school as well, you know, try to throw school in the mix there as well. Yeah, you didn't get much studying done.
So
but
tough,
so it's just it was a lot. And definitely now I'm able to enjoy a bit more time with summer, and you know, on the weekends just do what I want kind of thing. But in terms of like an average week, I mean, the only thing that changes day to day is obviously what I'm training. And I've kind of worked with my coach to create something that is catered towards me. You know, I don't need the 2 leg days a week, like I said. So, you know, we have structured it in a way that 3 days on, 1 day off. And by the time that you're coming back to that muscle group, you're just ready to hit it. So, you know, you're always keeping things fresh. You're not training things too often. And I mean, for me, what I found what works best is, you know, so say Monday, you're hitting back and tries, Tuesday, chest and buys, Wednesday, legs, Thursday's your rest day after a big muscle group, and then Friday is going to be straight arms, Saturday is going to be shoulders with a bit of upper chest and back for width. So you get into a bit more of the nitty gritty coming into the latter week, you know, hit everything once hard, and then kind of get into those little weak points for the latter end of the week, which is what I think a lot of people, you know, they do push-pull legs. So you're hitting chest, you know, chest one day, back one day, legs another day, with arms and shoulders somewhere in the mix. And that's great, but you're never going to be hitting arms fresh. You're always going to have done back before it, or chest before it. And there's some things that you want to do, you know, hitting your arms fresh is ideal. And for me especially, because I need to grow them, you want to be able to hit them when you're fresh so that you can put in that extra effort.
You just get more output.
The latter half of your workouts are never as good as the first 30 minutes, right? I mean, the pre-workout work usually wears off by about 20 minutes in, you know. And then you start talking to a cute girl, and then you're just itching your face or something. Oh, geez.
Dude, that's why I can't take that stuff. I did it once, and my skin was itching, and I was like, I felt like I had to go to the hospital.
No.
Do you dry scoop it?
No, dry scooping, there's like a really bad misconception that everyone's like, oh, it hits better, right? Like, it's more potent. Well, no, that's not how it works.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense, and plus it just burns going down.
Yeah,
like,
you're still getting it all.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're supposed to mix it with 250 mils of fluid for a reason, because you actually want it to dissolve, and it needs water to have the full adverse effect on your body for absorption.
So all these people out here just
all these people are like, oh, dry scoop. Well, I mean, yeah, you're still consuming the caffeine content and the other stuff, but you need to drink water, and it's super hard on your stomach lining.
Yeah,
too.
it doesn't seem like a good idea to me.
And yeah, I need to stop taking it though. It's bad.
Yeah,
don't take it.
Do you drink coffee at all, or?
I didn't until I got on my prep. Well, I did when I was younger, but yeah, I don't know. Being maybe that we have dentists in the family, I'm kind of concerned about how white my teeth are always. So I'm like, if I did drink coffee, extra milk so that it didn't stain my teeth, right?
That's hilarious.
But no, I stopped drinking coffee the whole year when I was living in Victoria, because we didn't have a coffee maker and I was too lazy to get like the instant mix. And then, and then when I came home, I was just living at home, and I don't know, I just continued on just not drinking coffee. But as soon as prep rolled around and I was only getting like 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night and like constantly on the go, yeah,
it was necessary.
2 cups of coffee in the morning. Otherwise, I didn't know how to start my day. And like, it was so bad. It got to the point where I could take pre-workout with like 300 milligrams of caffeine at like 7:30 at night, sleep like a baby.
Damn, yeah.
And I used to be very caffeine sensitive. Like a Coke, 6 p.m.
Just
or
wildin'.
like, I was wilding. Yeah. And now it's like, I could couple scoops of pre-workout before bed and I'll still sleep. Like,
yeah, you do seem more chill.
Yeah.
Than back in the day.
Yeah. So
I'm at the point where I said this on the last episode that got dropped. Like, I can drink a whole French press of coffee, and then like that gets me to like base neutral.
Yeah.
It's like, now I'm Jordan. Like,
yeah. All right, I'm ready to start my day.
Pretty much, man. Yeah. Like, I just drink a whole French press, like from probably like when I wake up till like lunch, basically.
Hey, if it works, it works.
It works.
I mean, coffee's not as bad as pre-workout.
Yeah,
like,
true.
If you actually loop it back and think about all the other components that are in pre-workout, some of them are very beneficial. One of my favorite things that I actually like to take a pure form of is lion's mane, and that just helps with your concentration. I actually take it a lot when I was studying.
Oh,
it's
cool.
basically like a non-prescribed dose of Adderall.
Okay.
It's like a toned down version.
Is that a mushroom lion's mane? Or?
Yeah. So it's derived or developed from like a mushroom extract or something. But yeah, anyways, it works.
Yeah.
Just focus, and like that was one of the things on prep that just kind of kept me making sure that I was going and in the right direction every day, just staying focused at work, especially doing an accounting job. You're sitting there looking at a computer and it's boring, it's dry, it's repetitive, and if you don't have the focus, it's really easy to just go on your phone and
or
maybe a couple of swipe left and right. So what's in Kelowna today, right? Like, so
that's hilarious. Yeah, no, I don't think I could do an accounting job. Like, my brain's just like pew, 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 pew.
Yeah, well, the worst part for me is all my meals I like to eat at a particular time to space them out so that my body has like equal times between meals. I don't eat when I'm hungry. I just eat at these times in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And when you sit there and you have the 12:45 right on the bottom right hand screen of your corner, or right hand corner of your screen, and you just watch it slowly go up by one.
You're just thinking about that meal.
It's just thinking about that meal. Like, you thought I thought about it a lot when we were eating the last one. Just gets worse as the minutes go on, and just
That's so funny.
Yeah, time definitely goes very slow when you're looking at a clock all day. So
I believe it.
Yeah.
And so when it's kind of like editing, actually. But so when you're in the gym working out and stuff like that, like, are you obviously you're hitting like the classics like bench press, squat, deadlift? Are there certain ones that you like more or that work for you better, or is that your coach kind of deciding that?
Yeah, it's a really unique split in that it's every week is the same rotation of exercises, rotation of muscle groups, but it's over a 3-week period. So each week is a different structure of like how you're training the muscle essentially. Right. So just for example, for something like deadlifts, for week 1, I'm only deadlifting from my knees, above my kneecaps upwards. So you're just hitting that upper back. Week 2, you're going to drop the bar below your knees. Now you're hitting a bit more range of motion. And then that 3rd week is when you do deadlifts. And then now you're hitting the full range, right? So theoretically you should be able to go heavier when it's higher up on your body because you have to pull the weight less of a distance. But it's kind of like segmenting the training, like so building up to it. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that kind of definitely created like and got me past those plateaus, which a lot of people hit, is they don't, they'll jump on the bench press every time for the start of their chest day.
Yeah.
And they don't do anything other than they build up to like their 1 rep max, they'll fail it or hit it, and then they'll stop. And they don't progressively overtrain the muscle and each part of that lift, right? So something for like chest, so to say, rather than just doing flat bench. Personally, I don't do a lot of flat bench. It's really hard on your shoulders. And incline bench is easier on your shoulders, and for me, a little bit more of one of my weaknesses is my upper chest.
Incline primarily.
Yeah. So
do you decline at all, or?
There's the occasional time.
Yeah.
Probably the only thing that I primarily do decline once every 3 weeks is decline flies actually, and it's just completely different than your flat or your incline flies, just because you're stretching the pec at a completely different hinge point essentially. So you're just stretching different fibers, and like I said, you want to just work the whole muscle, not just certain parts of it. If you're bench pressing, the certain muscles are going to get stronger than others and vice versa, and then you'll go do something else and you'll just hurt yourself because your muscles aren't prime prepped and ready to do other things, right?
So you primarily hit incline though.
Yeah, so like week 1 I'll do incline bench, week 2 I'll start with incline dumbbells, week 3 I'll do incline Smith machine, so something that you can go a little heavier on, not focus on the balance aspect, and you can do a bit more volume work, where when you do it on free weight, you're a bit more concentrating on the control and making sure the dumbbells aren't moving, and that's all working individual muscle fibers and you don't even realize it, right? So yeah, this definitely changing it up is the biggest thing. And like I said, a lot of people, they start every chest day with a bench press and every leg day with a leg press or a squat, and you got to change it up, because if you do the same thing over and over again, eventually you'll get past that plateau. But that's not how you want to train the muscle, so that you're maturing every part of it. So
Well, yeah, and I can imagine like when you're talking about like the sculpting the body and stuff like that, if you're hitting the same exercise all the time, that's going to shape you maybe in one way, whereas if you're doing like a wide range of stuff, it might shape you in another way. Or
well, and there's so many little tiny things that you can change, for just something like take a tricep press down or even a curl, just depending in what rotation you have your arm, is going to hit different muscles. And some people, or 80% of the gym people, they'll straight or only like this. And you just have to know to work each different part, because in the long term, it will show on stage. And I mean, if you're not competing, well, does it really matter? But I still think there's some merit to training all parts of the muscle, because it improves your training when you're doing other things, right? Take something like your triceps. And if you're doing close grip bench a lot, well, yeah, that's for triceps, but you're also going to increase your bench when you go back to bench, because you just have that much more pushing power, not only from your pecs, but just through your arms as well, right? So it all kind of links back to one another, and just definitely important to train all components of it and sculpt each individual part. For me, that's how I see it. I don't see it as if I train this, it's going to help this.
Right.
I never go to the gym and say, I'm going to go bench press this much weight for 1 rep. Like, it's just not something that I do, and my bench isn't strong, and I don't care. But these guys that can bench 4 plates, do they look good on stage? No. So
yeah,
you got to put the ego.
It's a trade-off.
Yeah, you got to put the ego away sometimes. Like, don't get me wrong, I love to like squats. I'll go heavy on. Like, I'll do 1 rep max on squats. Just that's something I'll do more often. Deadlifts too, just because deadlifts I can show off.
Yeah, is deadlift your strongest lift? Or?
Yeah. Well, my deadlift would be my strongest lift. If we were looking at the 3 powerlifting lifts, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
wild. And do you do there's this famous clip of Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the day where he's talking about like when dudes are working out their arms, they normally just like they go through a couple reps and then they get tired and they're like, oh, but he's like, your muscle's not done yet. Like there's still failure in like the decline part of it. And so he'll get his buddy to pull it all the way up and then he just goes down and his buddy will help it back up. And do you do that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah,
at all,
no. So it's definitely, you don't want to abuse something like that. It's good to overwork the muscle, but there's like a right time you want to do it. You don't want to do it on your first exercise,
right? Of course,
because then you're just gonna like over fatigue the muscle. And I mean, some people might like that because then the rest of their workout is really hard. But I'd rather do like 3 heavy things of like different exercises rather than doing one heavy thing and then everything else light.
I see.
So that's kind of my structure. Is I won't do my I won't do like assisted negative reps until my last couple exercises on like my burnouts and stuff that can contract a bit better. I mean, bench press, 90% of people don't even feel a contraction in their pecs. They're just bouncing the bar off their chest and racking it again.
Totally.
So that's another big component, is getting that mind to muscle connection and linking it back.
Mm-hmm. And were guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff inspirations for you? Like, did you kind of follow the history of bodybuilding at all? Or?
Not as much the golden era. Obviously, everyone knows Arnie. There's a whole bunch of the new generation guys that, I mean, it's who we see on social media and whatnot, which were the guys that our parents saw back in the magazines. It's the same sort of thing, right? So these older guys aren't active on social media, and as much as we all know Arnie and, you know, we know these other Frank Zane type bodybuilders, it's just not who people look up to anymore because there's new kings in town.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they're past it.
So they're in the past, and the style of bodybuilding has changed with time too, right? So what looked good back then is not necessarily what people strive for now. So it's just a bit of that component for me. It was Chris Bumstead was kind of like the first one that came on. I also watched a lot of this Australian YouTuber, Callum Von Moger. He's just like really funny kind of guy. And then posing wise, there's one guy named Terrence Ruffin, and he's just a phenomenal poser. I started watching him when he was 21 or 22 years old, and like was very small. And last year he actually came second at the Olympia. And his posing routine is just like an art form. Like it is just, it's amazing to watch. And like for me, I think that that's so cool. Like I'd watch that over a movie any day because I can see the art to it and also like appreciate how hard it is to hit a pose like that and flex every single muscle. And it's a whole nother aspect of bodybuilding.
Yeah.
A bit more of the art dance side of it that is just so difficult. And when I watch him pose, like that's a lot of times what I'd watch in the mornings when I was doing my cardio. I'd just watch him pose, or, you know, just even these workout vlogs. That was the type of stuff that kind of got me through it. And yeah, at the end of the day, those are kind of the main 3 people that I look up to, and not so much the golden age guys anymore.
Fair. Yeah, I like how you describe the posing side of it, because like I think that like growing up, if you start going to the gym and stuff, you see just your average like gym bro who's just like posing in front of a mirror and posting a photo, and you're like, fuck that guy. You know? Yeah. But the way you explain it is like it's the actual, like you're studying it. You're studying the actual art form of it and studying like the actual techniques and so what is that with posing? Like how, like I don't know anything about it really, like how you go about preparing yourself for a posing routine.
Yeah, well, for me, so the biggest thing is know what poses you look best in and ones you don't. Right. Because there's always going to be poses, no matter how good you look, that you don't look good in. You'll find something about that pose that doesn't look good. And you have to avoid those at all costs, because you don't want to look small on stage. And the kind of rule of thumb is you could be 200 pounds and look 180 pounds shredded on stage, or you could be 200 pounds and look 220 pounds on stage. Okay. It's all how you display yourself.
Right.
So yeah, finding those right poses. And then for me, I just choreographed a routine on my own, just with my dance background. And, you know, I took, okay, this pose will go into this one nicely, kind of worked with my hands and feet, created a nice transition. And then same thing, just throughout the poses and then kind of listen to the music. Okay, where's like a bit of maybe a bass drop that I could like hit a pose on, or do a movement that will kind of resemble with the music. And very similar to dance, just getting that rhythm to flow with the music and get into it. And I think my dance background definitely helped, but yeah, that was another thing the judges were very impressed by, is the posing, because it can make a experienced bodybuilder not look good just because they can't hit a pose properly.
Right.
And that's the posing routine side of it. But then obviously you have your mandatory poses that you're doing on stage, and those you don't get to pick. Those you have to hit. So there's hours after every gym session, I'd always walk through my mandatory poses. I was that gym douchey guy that was posing in the mirror, because when you're working out, it's good to pose and contract the muscle for a prolonged period of time, so that when you go back into your next set, you fatigue the muscle in another way. And yeah, I was just always posing and just practice. The hardest thing is the breathing, because you can't let your stomach out, especially when you're face on. You can't breathe through your stomach. It's all through your upper chest, and you can hold those poses for, I think, we held it. We held one of them for like a minute and a half front, right? So you're trying to keep your whole body, basically head to toe, flexed, right, the whole time. And that's kind of like I said earlier with my coach. You don't realize when your legs aren't flexed or something, and then he just yells at you, and you tense them back up again, and makes it unique.
Yeah, and I don't think you're one of those gym douchey guys, because you're actually doing it for a reason. I'm talking about like Chad, who's throwing one plate on each side of the bench press and then sending a Snapchat to his girl.
Okay, that's fair.
So when you're doing these poses, like, and you mentioned like your breathing, like what's kind of the what's one of your most what's one of the better poses that you're good at?
So for me, kind of in this new age of bodybuilding, the vacuum is what's trending, so to say.
When you inhale
and that's when you're sucking in, contouring the stomach to your rib cage. And basically, you don't see your abs unless they're like very overdeveloped, which the guys that can do vacuum and have abs, you're on a whole nother ball game. Like, I don't know if you're doing crunches in your sleep or what, but that's crazy. But that's one of the poses that definitely separates you from the rest if you can pull it off. In association with something with your arms, you don't just stand there and do it. But like now, there's guys literally doing essentially a ballerina pose, looking straight up from the side just to show how much they can suck in. Like it's crazy, and that's probably the hardest pose and that I can pull off is doing a vacuum and just sucking in, and it's hard because.
So what do you do to get to that? Like, are you working on your breathing?
Oh yeah, no. So every morning when I wake up, I do 5 vacuums for 5 seconds, and it's just practicing pushing all the air out, because you just have to and then pull your stomach up as hard as you can and try to smile at the same time. and don't forget about flex every other muscle in your body. And so it's definitely not easy. And like I said, it can separate you from the rest if you can pull it off. But some guys try it and
they can't pull it off.
They shouldn't have tried it.
Yeah.
So
wild. Yeah. Crazy. And are you, before you go on stage, are you doing like warm-ups to get blood flowing and stuff like that and kind of get that pump going? You must be.
Yeah. So actually, I didn't have any treat or cheat eats for the whole 19 weeks. But funny enough, the day of the show, I had 2 Reese's peanut butter cups and a bag of salt and vinegar chips right before I stepped on stage. And just like the sodium helps so you're not cramping up on stage. Then you take some pre-workout, you just get pumped up. You just have bands backstage.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to overwork the muscle. Like, it's not like you have big dumbbells and you're lifting heavy and like tiring out the muscle, because posing, that's tiring enough.
You got to do your routine. Yeah.
That's tiring enough. Like, kicks the shit out of you by the end of it. You're sweating. So
I think there was I don't know if it was like a very well done study or if it was like a meta-analysis done or even if it was peer reviewed, but I remember hearing from somebody where there was a study done where it was like just even flexing your muscles does cause some slight benefits for like growth and stuff like that. And like somebody can get like a workout going just in their house just by flexing their muscles, especially like what I do a lot of like senior fitness stuff, and so like they can't do a lot of shit, so they have to do something really easy. And just flexing your muscles will like eventually work them a little bit. Yeah, no, it's there's definitely some merit to that. And there's days, I don't do it often, but there's days when I'm training, you know, say I'm doing shoulder flies, I'll drop the dumbbells and then I'll just go up and hold and contract for as long as I can, right? So you're just putting the muscle under tension for that much longer and just tiring it out for that much longer. And all that works towards building muscle. So I definitely could see how anyone could do a workout from home. I mean, really, even not even thinking about just contracting the muscles, but there's so many workouts that we saw in COVID that can be done from home. Yeah. And yeah, I think a lot more people are trying to get more fit now, which is good. So. How, on the note of COVID, how did that affect your training? Like, were you allowed to go to a gym still? And because you're kind of like one of the only guys maybe in there? Or
well, so
allegedly,
when we were in Victoria, I was in Victoria when it kind of everything broke down, and yeah, right away, gym shut down. We're like, okay, this sucks. And we lived a minute from the ocean, and there's a whole bunch of logs. And we spent probably like 2 or 3 hours one day stacking up logs, finding like evenly weighted logs, you know, and we basically had enough things to work a whole workout in. You know, there was some logs that were good for curls. There was shoulder fly logs. We had this like one massive log that we were squatting and bench pressing.
Yeah, that was a dope video, dude.
Yeah. And like,
and you had the beach hair going also.
Oh yeah. So that's like that went on for about a week and a half. And then funny enough, we realized and remembered that our landlords had a gym in their house. It wasn't like phenomenal, but it was better than what most people had. Like there was a couple cables and there was a squat rack and bench press. So it was not bad for COVID. So then we stopped with the beach workouts because those were getting hard just for carrying the logs around, not even working out. Yeah. And that was just a whole nother thing. And yeah, we were working out there. So I was pretty fortunate to always have a gym to go to. And then when I came home, I was fortunate enough. My dad has a little gym down in the basement of his office. Oh, nice. Which had plenty enough stuff to get a good workout in. So I never really stopped training. And it was definitely I'm not going to say funny because it was a little unfair, I guess. But when we went back to the gym, you know, all my buddies, they haven't worked out for 2, 3, 4 months or whatever it was. And they're like, why are you still lifting heavy? I'm like, because I didn't stop. Sorry.
Not my fault. Yeah. No, that beach video was dope, dude. I bet like did you ever post that to TikTok or anything? Or
no, I didn't post it on TikTok.
That shit would blow up on TikTok, man.
Probably, but just filmed the wrong way. I need a portrait, not landscape. That's the only thing with TikTok, you know.
Fair, yeah. Cool. Well, we're gonna take one more break and then get into the next segment. But I'll be right back.
Waking up early mornings for you, rolling up personals, yeah. Anything for me and you. I could be anywhere and still feel like I am with you. I am so into you. Yeah, you know I mean it. Yeah, you know I mean it.
I don't know. When I talk about something I like, I can just go on forever.
It's easier.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, yeah, we're back, and I was gonna ask you, like, what's kind of the overall goal with this whole bodybuilding journey, and how do you see yourself participating in the future? Yeah, so I think the big long-term goal is get my pro card. That's kind of where I want to see myself in the next 5 years. Kind of. What do you have to do to get your pro card?
So basically that would be winning a regional show, which is like the show I just did. So if I placed 3rd instead of 4th, then I would have qualified for a pro show or a pro qualifier show. And then if you win that, then you'd have to win the overall. So not just your height class, but then you'd win your height class and then you'd go against the guys in the other height class. You win that, then you usually only one person gets their pro card. So it can be done in 2 shows. and that's kind of my goal for the next couple of years. So like I said, I just need to put on a bit more size. So I'm going to take, I kind of plan for 2 years. Somewhere in the fall 2023, I'll look at competing again. So that'll just give me time to bulk up and not just hold it for 2 or 3 months like I've done the last couple of years, and hold it for prolonged period, year and a half, and just be able to mature a bit more muscle and hopefully retain more than just a couple pounds. And then, cut down. And ideally, a lot of times they do a regional show the weekend right before pro qualifier. So I would just do the regional show. If all goes well with that, then just jump into the pro qualifier the following weekend. And then you can only use your pro qualifier within that calendar year. So after that calendar year, I'd have to do another regional show before I go to a pro qualifier again. But yeah, basically I'll just keep doing that until hopefully I can get my pro card. It's definitely one of those things that's easier in the States because they have shows every weekend. A lot less common in Canada. Like, there's shows every weekend, but they're all over the country. Where in the States, there's like a show in each state every weekend. Right. So it's a lot more common down there. So.
And when you get your pro card, is that when like sponsorships can start coming your way, or?
Yeah, so that's kind of where I feel that there's a lot more of the money involved in the sport. But at the end of the day, it's never going to fund you unless you're someone like Ronnie Coleman that has supplement companies and whatnot and other things behind him other than just his bodybuilding career. Bodybuilding itself won't get you to where you want to be in life successfully. It's unfortunately just not one of those sports that's highly valued and that makes a lot of money. So definitely there's sponsorships to come, and I think stuff like TikTok and social media have really helped that, but also made it that much harder.
Right, because now
there's so many more people, right? There's a bigger pool, and especially during quarantine, I feel like that the male fitness industry tripled in size. Like, it was just like something that all males just started doing because they had nothing better to do with their time. And
well, there's even that trend where it's like they do like the Eminem song and then the Thanos talk over, and it's like, fine, I'll do it myself. And it's all these dudes who were like overweight, and then boom, they just like look amazing all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and a lot of the time, like you say, these guys that are overweight and then look amazing, going from, I mean, obviously there's boundaries, but going from a little bit heavier is always going to be easier than coming from below. Right? These really skinny guys.
When the goal is to be big.
Exactly. So these guys that are big and then they cut down, they lose some of that fat, they look good. They look big. And it's disappointing. You're like, you've been in the gym for 6 months. Like, how are you as big as me? But that's because their arms were, they had a lot of fat on them. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm glad they changed their lifestyle. But it just gives you that advantage, and that's why I have to bulk up to be able to do exactly what they do, essentially, right?
Totally.
So I think it was awesome when I saw that all these guys, losing a bunch of weight, and guys and girls, and I think it was great for.
Yeah, I hope the fitness industry kind of blew up over the pandemic, because it's like we're all supposed to be a little bit healthier now, and like you'd hope that we'd start thinking about our fitness more, and people are getting out there and doing shit. And fuck, when you're in the house for 2 months with barely anything to do,
what do you do?
Might as well get a workout in.
There's one time I was lying on my back and my roommate was lying on the couch, and I was bench pressing the couch. Like we were just like, we were running out of things to do in the house. We were just bored. We bought a skipping rope because we didn't know what to do with our time. Like,
I bought a bunch of kettlebells, and I got really into like kettlebells and then a steel mace. I eventually bought a steel mace as well. And so that's been my primary way of fitness and working out recently. And I haven't been back to a gym since, actually. Like, I might have had a couple of days where I'd go and I'd lift heavy on like the bench press and the squat and stuff like that, heavy for me. But I primarily just do that kind of stuff. Yeah,
well, everyone that's one of the things. Like, everyone has their own style that works for them and different goals too, right?
Totally.
CrossFit athletes, they're not going to train like I train, and they're not going to, like we said earlier, they're not going to do any
depleting.
Well, depleting, but also when they're training, they're just going to focus on the lifts that matter.
Right.
They don't train as many muscle groups as they probably should. And I think that a lot of these guys would see a lot more results if they took time away from some of their main lifts put into these other secondary lifts and then come back, right? And I think that in stuff like CrossFit or, you know, these guys want to see their numbers go up, but they're not putting in every piece of the puzzle before they try to complete the, like, finalize it, right? So
I agree. I think that's a point that a lot of people don't realize. If you're like training a certain lift, sometimes just doing that lift over and over again isn't the actual move necessarily. Like I work with Brent Fikowski pretty closely, and I do a lot of his photos and videos, and we have one program called Train Your Weakness. And so they'll pick like a movement that's like a weakness for somebody, and then they'll give them like 60 exercises that aren't that movement, but they're going to help them do that movement better. And so it's like, hey, boom, week 1, do this, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. And then like by the end of week 6, like you're doing that movement, whether it be a squat or a snatch or whatever, and you're doing it like way, way better than what you would have before.
Exactly, right? So it's just the building blocks that you're working off of for each part of the lift, and that's going to help indefinitely and maturing the muscle and just making you stronger. So
do you do any powerlifting at all, or
no, like not any of like the hang cleans or like anything like that I just feel like there's too much stress on your shoulders.
It's a lot on the joints.
Yeah, I squat, I bench, and not often bench and deadlift, but other than that, like that's kind of the extent of my powerlifting, so to say.
Yeah. And what do you? So would you say squat or you said deadlift's one of your best lifts?
Deadlift is pretty good.
Do you want to put your numbers out there at all? Or?
I'll put my numbers out there because when I hit it, I was pretty light in comparison. So at 180 pounds, I deadlifted 525 or 535, conventional, because sumo, that's none of that stuff.
What's the difference between conventional and
sumo? You have your legs a little bit wider. It's just, in my opinion, a little bit easier. It's the cheating way. It's what powerlifters do. But yeah, so then conventional, your feet are shoulder width apart, and that's like traditional deadlift that you're used to seeing. So yeah, 525 deadlift.
Holy fuck.
Squat.
Yeah, what a squat. My goal, I'll tell you my goal for a squat.
Okay.
I'm 155 right now if I'm lucky. And my goal for a squat, I haven't been into a gym and actually like hit it. I know I have my 70-pound kettlebell, and I'll just run like a bunch of front squats with that. Yeah. My goal was to rep out 6 reps clean, 2 plates on each side.
That's good.
And I haven't tried it yet. I haven't tried it yet. I did a
front squat or back squat?
Back squat.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I did a one max rep with 2 plates on one side once, and this was before the pandemic, and I haven't been back into like a gym since. But
I bet you.
So that was my goal.
I bet you could do that. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I could do 6. It's
one of those things that I don't know. Like once I get like 2 in me, then I'm good for the final 4. But the first 2 are always hard.
Yeah, those are the difficult ones. It's weird how much of a confidence thing it is. Also, like I remember when I first went to the gym, I was scared to put 45s on each side. Right, so I'm hitting like 35s on each side. I'm like, okay, man, maybe I'll do 45. And then you finally do it. You're like, fuck, man, I could have been hitting these like 3 weeks ago.
I know,
right?
So
much longer in my.
I know. Well, that was like me with bench press for the longest time when I think, in grade 12 when I was trying to hit 2 plates for the longest time. I tried everything. I did a 25, a 10, 2 5s, 25, 10, 10. Like I just tried everything to like trick my mind and like change my like confidence level, thinking, oh, it's not 2 plates. Like there's not physically 2 plates on either side. I'll be able to do this. It never worked. As soon as I put 2 plates back on, then that's when you hit it. It's just like, yeah, you just got to have the confidence.
What are you hitting in squats?
Squats 435, 425, 435.
Oh my god, how many plates is that?
4 plates and a 15 aside, so 405, 435.
Dude.
Yeah.
And what for? You said you don't do 1 max.
Oh, squats that would be a 1 rep
max?
max. But like, yeah, like no, usually like 365 for like sets of 6.
That's wild, bro. So how much weight have you put on in these past, like since you started doing this journey to like where you're at kind of now?
I graduated high school at 130 pounds.
Me too.
So yeah, that was a wee little time ago, and then I was up at 200 pounds last winter, and now I'm kind of cruising around that 180 mark right now. But we're gonna put ourselves up to 215 over the next year and a half here.
215 is the goal. Okay.
Yeah, 215 is the goal. So like I said, I'll be able to get 200 fine. Like right now, I'm not back to a full diet. I'm still working backwards, like I was saying earlier. And once I kind of get up to that more of a full capacity and like constantly eating, like when I would be eating on this podcast, kind of like throughout the day eating, that's when I'll probably be 200. And then that's when I just need to go a little bit more. And that's, what I didn't have the time for the last couple of years. And even if I did it, it wasn't going to be for a long enough time. So then you would just have to work harder to lose that weight. Yeah. Right. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. And so how is Switzerland playing into all this when you head off to the Switzerland?
Yeah. So that's September 3rd. I fly out. And then I'll be there for 5 months. It hasn't really put an effect on it other than two things that are very expensive there: gyms and food.
So why Switzerland then?
Well, that's a good question. For accounting, it's like kind of the finance headquarters of the world. So I was like, hey, that's
Dodging
a good place.
Taxes. All the rich people.
Like, I'll go there. And I have a good friend that lives there as well. So just having that close connection with someone will be nice. But yeah, gyms and food cost a lot. I mean, just for the Canadian viewers to put into perspective, a Big Mac is like what, $7 for just the burger? $6 maybe?
I don't know, yeah.
Something like that. I haven't had one in a long time.
Yeah, I haven't had a Big Mac in a minute.
But in Switzerland, with the conversion, it'd be like about $17 Canadian. Or one chicken breast is going to be about $8 Canadian for one chicken breast, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that is a bit of an issue there is everything is very small proportioned. So the biggest bag of rice you buy in a store is 1 kilogram. We're buying 10 kilogram bags of rice at Costco. Yeah. It's usual. Luckily for me, there's a grocery store right outside my place, so nice. I'll probably be there. They'll get to know me really well. Just keep a running tab, So, because that's truthfully common in Switzerland and European countries is they grocery shop every day and they just cook their food right when they get home, and they only have maybe a mini fridge if they're lucky because it's just very densely populated. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the only thing that's a bit of my concern is if I'll be poor by the month after I get there because I'm eating too much or what, or I'll have to find something cheap to eat. So.
And how long are you going to be there for?
I'll be there for 5 months. So yeah, I'll come back at the end of January. My exams, their schooling is a little different in that they take Christmas off, then do exams. But I only have one exam in January. So I'm just going to ski the Swiss Alps or something.
Nice.
Take advantage of it.
Yeah, because you're a big skier and stuff also.
Yeah, so go ski the Swiss Alps.
That's
my
wicked.
dad might come down and
nice.
Yeah, just do a little ski trip. It's one of those things you do once in a lifetime, and it's not the good powder skiing that you're going to get here in British Columbia, but it's just like the Après ski resorts, like massive. It's a whole village. It's Whistler on steroids, right?
Yeah.
So and there's resort beside resort beside resort, and it's crazy. So
yeah, crazy. Yeah. And are you gonna have to learn the language at all? You think, or is it kind of setting you up for?
Fingers crossed.
I'm sure a lot of people speak English there.
Yeah. So about 65-70% of people are proficient in English, which is pretty good. But they just have a weird language. It's basically French, Italian, and German.
Just all mixed
together somehow. Yeah, it's like Swiss German or something they call it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know any German, any French, any Italian, so I'm screwed. But I know English, so.
Well, I bet if you're an accountant in Switzerland, you should know English and probably Mandarin.
Well, Mandarin is going to take over, right?
Yeah. Well, and those, there's the Swiss bank accounts are infamous over there for dodging taxes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and then they put all the tariffs on their country and then make everything expensive, right?
100%. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it is what it is for them.
Yeah.
Crazy. Cool, man. That's exciting. And has your dad ever been out there? Because your dad's an avid skier also.
No, none of us have been. Actually, Michaela, my sister, went to the Swiss Alps on a little trip in grade 12 or something, but she was there for a day or something. Nothing prolonged period. I've been to Italy. That's really the only other place in Europe that I've been. And yeah, so it'll be an experience for me, and if my dad comes, an experience for him as well. So yeah, I think it'll be really cool. Just completely different, unique city, but still a very similar environment to the Okanagan, where you have the lakes, you have the mountains only half an hour away from your house, very similar weather conditions. So I'll kind of feel like I'm at home in that regard. Minus paying $9 for a chicken breast. I'll never let that go. That's just going to be the life of me. You know, I created a budget plan, and
chicken and rice.
I was looking at it. I'm like, geez, my food bill is going to be high, but gotta do what you gotta do.
It's what it is, man.
Part of the sport.
Well, hell, if anybody's good at creating a budget, I'd assume it'd be you.
Yeah,
right?
I can create a budget pretty good. You know, I can work with Excel.
Yeah, sweet, man. Well, this has been fun, dude. I mean, beyond just being able to hang out and shit, it's like with the pandemic, we haven't been able to see family and people nearly as much. But also, I'm like super proud of you and seeing all the cool stuff you're doing.
Thank you.
It's inspiring.
I mean, you're doing a bunch of pretty amazing stuff right now too. You know,
whole family, as it seems like.
Yeah, the whole family. We're all on great paths in our life. So
facts.
Yeah, it's the turning point in our lives. It's crazy. We're in the real world now.
We're taking over. Yeah, we're all just competing for Grandpa's Mustang. That's
okay. This is true. This is true. Yeah. I hope he's watching, because he's gonna be a little more proud of me after this episode.
I think so, dude. I'm the one who's had 3 drinks and you've had 1.
Well, you know, you gotta watch the calories. You know.
Well, man, shout out where people can find you, where they can support you, and what you're doing out here.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to follow me on Instagram, rhawthornelifts is my Instagram. That's really the only platform I use. Yeah. So other than that, thank you very much.
R Hawthorne lifts.
rhawthorne.lifts. Yeah.
How do you spell Hawthorne?
HAWTHORNE.
All right, we'll make sure that we have that down in the description below as well.
Yeah, go give it a follow, and follow the journey until 2023 and being 215 pounds.
Let's go, taking over.
Yeah, taking over. Pro card, here we come.
Cool, man.
All right.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, peace, people. Boom.